Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. Today we are looking at the Return of the Witchlord quest pack for Hasbro's 2021 reissue of HeroQuest. And if you've already seen my review of the Kellar's Keep quest pack, I think a lot of what I'm going to say here is a bit redundant, because really Kellar's Keep and Return of the Witchlord both do pretty much the same thing. They both extend the core game experience by adding in a 10-part quest, and then they give you extras of the miniatures that already came in the core box. In the case of Return of the Witchlord, they give you a whole bunch of extra undead stuff, skeletons, mummies and zombies. I picked up my copies of the expansions in a game store in the UK. I paid £25 per expansion, which is the full retail price. Asmodee, who are distributing the game in the UK, are really squeezing the margins, and it's actually quite difficult to find the core game or any of the expansions at any kind of meaningful discount, so I was happy to pay the £25. Especially as I think these expansions are really good value for that price point. In this video I will show you the full components and I will talk through what I think of the expansion in general, but before I do, I did just want to mention, as I did in the Kellar's Keep video, these expansions are sealed with tape on the edges, and if you just try to rip that tape off, you may damage the box. I managed to successfully remove all of the tape and the price sticker by using a hairdryer to melt the glue on the tape and then gently peeling it off, and that is something I recommend people do. And now, into the box. First of all, you get a punch board. You get some overlays that go over certain rooms on the board. You get some extra walls, trapdoors, secret doors at the bottom there, 4 coffins. And for anybody who had the original Return of the Witchlord back in the 90s, this will all look very familiar indeed. The tokens are a decent quality, they are single-sided unlike the ones from the core set, and really my only disappointment is I think they could have included some plastic coffins. That would have been really nice to add that extra 3D element that we love with HeroQuest. I understand why they didn't. They want to keep the price point down, and they also don't want to have to produce extra molds for extra miniatures if they don't need to, but I think it would have been a nice little extra touch, something to elevate it above the original 90s edition. Next up you have your plastic, and all of the plastic elements are held in these vacuum formed recesses, and when you are taking the miniatures out, do be careful. These trays grip very, very tightly, so you should take these models out with care. I've talked about this in other videos about Hasbro's edition of HeroQuest, and I wouldn't really recommend continuing to use the vacuum formed trays for storage, just because over time you do increase the risk of damaging your miniatures as you take them in and out. I should also point out, as you can see here, some of the miniatures are a little bit bent. You can see the skeletons in particular, their scythes are all twisted and buckled up. You can restore that very easily with the hot water treatment. Just dunk them in some hot water, reshape them, dunk them in some cold water, leave them to dry. You'll be good to go. You get 16 miniatures in total, you get 8 skeletons, 4 mummies and 4 zombies. And it should be noted, these are exactly the same sculpts as the ones that came in the core box. And of course that's exactly how they structured the expansion back in the 90s. However, during the crowdfunding campaign for this new edition of HeroQuest, there were stretch goals unlocked for new sculpts for skeletons, zombies and mummies. Obviously, those were incentives for people to back during the crowdfunding period, so I understand why they wouldn't use those in a retail product. But as they were never really advertised as exclusive, I do think it would have been a nice opportunity to mix up the sculpts a little bit by adding in those stretch goal sculpts to these expansions. But regardless, you're getting some nice miniatures anyway. Here is the zombie. As I said, you get 4 of these. And here is the mummy with his not quite as funny as the sculptor probably thought it was walk like an Egyptian pose. As with the Kellar's Keep expansion, you also get 2 reinforced doors. You get the iron door for coming into a dungeon and the wooden door for leaving. And if you already have the Kellar's Keep expansion, you don't really need the doors from the Return of the Witchlord expansion because you only ever use 1 of each anyway. But of course they had to include them just in case you only ended up buying 1 expansion. But why would you do that? These are very nicely sculpted, I like them a lot. I actually think you could also use these doors in regular missions to indicate doors going into boss fights or big encounters, just as a subtle way to indicate to your heroes that they might need to proceed with caution if they're being a little bit gung-ho or they're about to walk into a really dangerous situation without healing up first. I think one of my problems with these doors is something that was a problem with the original release of these expansions back in the day as well. They are both different, but they are both closed, yet one of these is supposed to represent the entrance into the dungeon while the other represents the exit. I think it would have been nice to have had one that was an open arch so that you could place that as the starting point, and then another one as a closed door for the exit point. But hey, that's just me. And finally, you get 14 new cards. 4 of them are items you can buy in the store, the rest are artifacts. And the purchasable items are the same as the ones that come in the Kellar's Keep expansion, they are potions. And because the idea with HeroQuest is you note down things you buy on your character sheet rather than keeping the cards, these are a little bit redundant if you already have the Kellar's Keep expansion, but of course they are included just in case you only have one or the other. But they are the Potion of Battle, which allows you to reroll 1 attack, and that costs 200 gold. The Potion of Dexterity, which allows you to add 5 movement squares to your movement roll, that costs 100 gold. The Potion of Restoration, which allows you to restore 1 lost body point and 1 lost mind point and costs 500 gold. And the Venom Antidote, which allows you to restore 2 body points of damage caused by poison, and that costs 300 gold. The artifacts in this expansion are a little bit more diverse and interesting than the ones you get in the Kellar's Keep expansion. If you don't want to see the cards, look at the timestamps in the video description below and skip ahead accordingly. First of all, you get one that also does come in the Kellar's Keep expansion, and that's the Magical Throwing Dagger, which allows you to cause 1 wound on 1 monster you can see. Next up we have the Anti-Poison Quill, which you can use immediately after being poisoned to restore all the body points that were lost to that poison. The super powerful Armband of Healing, which will restore 2 lost body points once per quest. The good thing about the armband is it triggers automatically if you are ever reduced to 0 body points, so it's worth just keeping hold of it, waiting until you die and then having it activate automatically. And then we have the Dust of Disappearance. When you put this on a hero, the dust allows that hero to move past any monsters encountered on their next turn, may only be used once. And then we have some Rabbit Boots. You can jump over 1 discovered trap per turn if you roll anything but a black shield on 1 combat dice. Finally, you get 5 spell scrolls which all appear in the Kellar's Keep expansion: Fire of Wrath, Courage, Ball of Flame, Pass Through Rock, and Heal Body. However, unlike in Kellar's Keep, where if you find a scroll, you shuffle the spell scroll deck and draw one randomly, these spell scrolls turn up as dictated by missions. And these are fun because they give non-spellcasters an opportunity to cast spells. You don't have to be the wizard or the elf to use them. And of course, all of the components in this box are used in the 10-part quest Return of the Witchlord. And the plot of this campaign, if you cannot guess, is the Witchlord has returned and you've got to put him down for good. It's a pretty straightforward romp through a dungeon infested with the undead, but there are some tough fights, a few interesting set pieces. The front cover art here is a not so subtle clue as to what might happen to you at some point during the mission. And although I haven't played this campaign since I was a kid, and of course back then I was playing the European version of the quest, I do remember this being a lot tougher than the campaign in the core box. But that's it really. I don't want to spoil any of the missions for you. I'm not going to flick through the quest book because obviously that would give away massive things that heroes shouldn't see. But I will say this is a fun expansion, and of course once you've completed the quest, all of the components that you have can be used in your homebrew missions as well. So those extra spell scrolls, those extra items, those extra things you can buy in the store, those are all really useful to add into your own adventures when you start planning the demise of those pesky heroes. And yes, overall my assessment of Return of the Witchlord is the same as my assessment of Kellar's Keep. For the £25 I paid, I'm getting a good selection of undead miniatures and a fun 10-part quest. That's at least 10 sessions of HeroQuest before you even start thinking about making your own adventures. So I do think it's worth the money. The downsides are exactly the same as the downsides for Kellar's Keep, and exactly the same downsides that these mission packs had when they came out originally. By the time you've got to Return of the Witchlord, you should have played through the core box and Kellar's Keep. That's a lot of adventures facing a lot of the same types of monsters. You may find that by the time you get to Return of the Witchlord, you are fed up facing those same skeletons, mummies and zombies, and you might be craving something new. Furthermore, of course, you are facing exactly the same skeletons, zombies and mummies because it's the same sculpts from the core box. But other than those 2 minor complaints, if you love HeroQuest, and why wouldn't you, these expansions do pretty much what you would want a HeroQuest expansion to do. They give you more HeroQuest. And I guess that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you've really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.